higher. The Nasdaq up 89. After the bell, earnings from L Brands, the parent of Victoria's Secret and Bath & Body Works, were good, but its outlook is weak. The earnings news was better at K-Cup maker Keurig Green Mountain. Now it's upping its shareholder dividend. And there's trouble at Ford Motors. With 2 days left of voting, a large number of UAW members have already rejected a tentative 4-year labor deal reached with the United Auto Workers Union. Tom Busby, CNBC.
There are no guarantees in love, but there is a guarantee from EH Plus by eHarmony, our new personal matchmaking service. At EH Plus, your own personal matchmaker gets to know you so well, we can guarantee introductions that will be satisfying and exciting. EH Plus goes far beyond regular online dating sites, and that's a guarantee. Visit us at ehplus.com/love or call 1-855-930-LOVE.
If you can't see the difference, why pay the difference? Switch to Dish and see what real value is. Call 877-249-6988. You can also save a bundle when you combine DishNet high-speed internet with your TV service. Call 877-249-6988. Programming starting as little as $29.99, plus access to thousands of movies and TV shows. Stream to your TV, smartphone, or tablet. Call 877-249-6988. Say goodbye to the cable guy and get Dish today.
Here's all you need to know. There's a new cool way to sell your unwanted stuff online. It's buysellmakeoffer.com. Buysellmakeoffer.com. You're not going to believe it. Join the legions of web sellers and buyers who are turning to buysellmakeoffer.com today. Never pay fees again. For low monthly membership of $7.95, you can sell up to 50 items, and there's a 60-day free trial membership to get you started. You can even produce your own infomercial to sell your products and upload the video for the world to see. Go right now to buysellmakeoffer.com.
You're listening to KCAA Loma Linda at 106.5 FM, K293CF Moreno Valley.
Good afternoon. It's 3:02. I'm Di Rice with the very latest in live local news here on KCAA 1050 AM and 106.5 FM. If nothing is done, Riverside County's $239 million in savings could be wiped out in a few years, according to a new county budget report. The report, which the supervisors took up last night, also estimated it could cost the county $40 million a year to comply with a lawsuit settlement that calls for improved medical and mental health care for jail inmates. These warnings emphasize the hard choices facing supervisors who are dealing with a series of new, inflexible, and ongoing costs and no clear path to pay for them. Earlier in the year, supervisors approved roughly a $5 billion operating budget for the fiscal year that started July 1st. Though officials are now saying that the county needs to match ongoing expenses with ongoing revenue. The county has hired an outside firm to review spending by the Sheriff's Department, District Attorney, and other public safety agency. Public safety is taking a bigger piece of the county's budget pie. And a Hemet man shocked the courtroom when he said he did not regret what he had done to a rape, murder, and arson victim in an October 31st, 2012 incident. Marquise Denzel McGlown, 25, made his statement after friends and family of 23-year-old Shanae Wesley talked about how they were impacted by the crime. McGlown had met Wesley through a mutual friend at a Temecula bar. After hanging out at the bar, both went to Wesley's apartment where the atrocities took place. McGlown had pleaded guilty to all charges. He was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole for killing Wesley and then setting her apartment ablaze with her 3-year-old son inside. The 3-year-old was rescued by a neighbor who was an off-duty firefighter, luckily. Inland Empire weather, sunny and probably warmer than what they're saying. We climbed all the way up to 81 degrees today, where we were only supposed to hit about 76. Tomorrow's high, they're saying 82. I'm going to say about 85 or 6. Right now, it is 80 degrees in San Bernardino.
If you're like me, you're concerned about...
And checking out your drive, there is an accident on the 91 freeway, westbound side at Magnolia Avenue, that has got the left lane blocked. And then through Moreno Valley, stop and go on the 215 northbound between Alessandro and Box Springs Road. And that is the very latest with news, weather, and traffic on the station that leaves no listener behind. KCAA 1050 AM and 106.5 FM.
What have I learned so far? I've learned that there is no one path that's right for everyone. I've learned that without my high school diploma, I can only do so much. My options were limited. I found a free personalized learning program with Learn for Life that is a flexible schedule so I could keep my job while earning my high school diploma. I found new career training opportunities that would jumpstart my future. What have I learned so far? I've learned that I can change my life.
Are you 14 to 19 years old and looking for a free high school diploma program with flexible meeting times? This program allows you to keep your job or important family responsibilities while earning your high school diploma. If you've fallen behind on credits or dropped out of school completely, get back on track with free tutoring, a caring faculty, and one-on-one attention. For more information on how to reach your graduation goal, visit learnforlife.org. That's LEARN, the number 4, LIFE.org. Or enroll today by calling 877-360-LEARN. That's 877-360-LEARN.
Go ahead and say it. We're all ears. KCAA.
Greetings and welcome to What's It All About? This is Dr. Donald Jolly Gabriel on KCAA 1050 on your AM radio dial, and now 106.5 on your FM dial. So we are simulcasting the show on FM and AM, and welcome to everyone. It is nice to be able to welcome you on such a beautiful day. And I want to remind you of our call-in number so you can leave messages. Also, I wanted to remind anyone who has requested the book Voice of an Angel who has not yet received it for whatever reason. I want you to call this number and please say that you have not yet received the book. Leave your name and address again, and we'll make certain that if it was returned, that it gets resent to you, and if it not, it'll be sent to you. And the telephone number is 949-680-1915. I'll say it again. Area code 949-680-1915. You can leave any questions at that number that you want us to deal with. We do have a few that we'll deal with today. And you can also leave any suggestions for stuff that you want to talk about on the show. And you can also RSVP for anything that we ask you to attend or do. And you can also put in any requests for topics of things that you want to discuss. So I want to welcome everyone to What's It All About. And I want to remind you that you are responsible for the most incredible thing on this planet, and that is your human body. Your human body is wonderful. You are given control of it. You are given the responsibility of taking care of it and feeding it and giving it things that work and promote its liveliness and capability to serve you, or you are feeding it stuff that is going to hurt you, harm you, make you sick, slow you down, make you complain, and you don't need to do that. You need to take responsibility for giving yourself the very best. I have today with me my co-host for the day, Rodney. Welcome, Rodney.
Well, welcome and greetings to everyone out there.
Amen, amen. What do you want to talk about today? Do you have anything?
Oh, we have all kinds of things we could talk about.
All kinds of things?
We've had lots of discussions already between the two of us.
Well, you know what's in vogue now? This situation that occurred in Paris and the fear and the anxiety that other things may happen like that in our particular area. And by the way, our phone number is toll-free, 1-888-909-1050. That is 1-888-909-1050. If anybody wants to call in and talk about anything, including Paris, or give us any wisdom that you might have or any suggestions, please call us. Any questions, if we don't have the answers, we'll try to get them for you. So we had one question pop up, but it had to do with Alzheimer's disease. And the question was, is it true that aluminum consumption or being near aluminum or anything to do with aluminum contributes to Alzheimer's disease? And that's a very interesting question, and the answer is very confusing because some of the research shows absolutely not. And there are some other people who have the opinion, other scientists who have the opinion that absolutely yes. So I guess we're right back where we started, and we don't know what the answer is. That's the way it is with most things in life.
Yes.
You have to remember that we're here to talk about things that have to do with our lives, with the quality of our lives, with where we're headed, what we're doing, what we want to do. And I want to talk a little bit later about food today, because food is the fuel that we all need and all use. But in the meantime, Rodney, do you have anything you want to cover before we get started?
You know, I think I would just like to make one comment about the atrocity that we're unfortunately all too well aware of that took place last Friday over in Paris. And when something like that occurs, it leaves us with the feeling that maybe there's more out there that we should be afraid of. I think what we have to understand is that there are some things we can do something about, and there are other things that we can't do something about. We have to distinguish between the two. We do what we can. We take necessary precautions when we can. But we don't stop living life, because if we do, that's exactly what the perpetrators of that kind of crime want us to do. They want us to give up on living. They want us to be intimidated. They want us to be fearful. And if we succumb to that, then they've accomplished their purpose. So better that we live life carefully but fully than to give in to the kind of emotions and paralyzing fears that they want us to have. We take appropriate precautions, but we don't shirk from living life.
Well, that's very good advice. I think we have to really take that very seriously and take a look at it, because it does, these kind of things do create an awful lot of fear. And that is what they want. It is what they want, absolutely. And, of course, they want more than that. They want that, and they want to destroy. They want to hurt. They want to maim. And that's very sad, very, very sad. I understand recently that some leaders in the Islamic community have condemned these actions, which is very good, and they should. Obviously, they should. So now I have something very interesting. A Picasso painting recently sold for $179.4 million. A Picasso painting. And when I studied a bit in Paris, I went into restaurants where some of these great artists actually painted things on the walls. And if this painting that sold for $179 million, if Picasso painted something, and they did, Picasso did, along with some of the other great painters, painted things on the walls of these cafes, my goodness, they got value in the plaster, and they can't take the plaster off, so what do? Do you know, Rodney, what they do?
What, sell the building?
I don't know. I mean, it's kind of like the Sistine Chapel. You know, all the paintings are actually in wet plaster, and they can't be removed. They can't be sold. But if they could be sold, my goodness, they might be worth this much money also.
Yeah, that's incredible to think that the property where people go and eat and drink coffee, whatever, could be worth hundreds of $millions just from an artistic standpoint. I remember I lived in Japan one year. I taught English there when I was in college. And in Tokyo, apparently Tokyo has the highest real estate prices of anywhere in the world, or at least it did at that time. They would literally measure the amount of property they were going to sell you in downtown Tokyo by a little device that was about the size of a postcard. And you would buy so many of those postcard-sized pieces of property to set up whatever business you had. So you could be sitting at a restaurant or a bar in a stool, and who knows, you may be sitting on hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of property. I don't know. It's crazy.
Well, it is crazy. And I had a wonderfully interesting experience one night when I landed in Japan. I went there to lecture quite a while ago. And, of course, not knowing any Japanese, and I arrived there very late. I was starving. So I went from my hotel. I found this little restaurant, and I went to it. And I didn't know what to order. And so I saw this table next to me. The gentleman had this funny little. It wasn't a plate. It was like a box. It was about an inch and a half, maybe 2 inches tall, and it had all these little spaces in it. And every little space had something in it. And there was one with a nice, looked like a steak, and other thing with pickles and rice and all kinds of little tidbits that you could pick up and eat that looked like hors d'oeuvres. And I thought, well, that looked pretty good. So I pointed at that. And that's what I got. They brought it to me. The waitress brought it to me, and we never were able to communicate at all. When I got the bill, it was all in Japanese, and I didn't have a clue. So I got somebody to figure out that I didn't know what was going on, and they translated and wrote it in English for me. And it was $289 plus another $100 for my drinks. $100 for my drinks and almost $300 for my dinner. And I was shocked about that. So I guess things are pretty expensive in Japan. And that's shocking to me, utterly shocking. Did you have those kinds of problems there?
Well, no, not exactly, because I didn't spend much time in Tokyo. I lived in Hiroshima.
Hiroshima?
Yes, it was an interesting experience. This would have been 1978.
Wow.
79.
That must have been emotionally powerful.
Well, it was, because we lived very close. And I say we, it was the first year I was married, and my wife and I lived close to the epicenter of where the atomic bomb went off. Some of our students actually were survivors of the atomic bomb blast. We had one gentleman in particular who was about 5 years old when the bomb was dropped. He remembered seeing the flash, the mushroom cloud going up. But it was interesting because I have never felt more appreciated as an American than I did when I was there living in Japan. And it was actually a wonderful experience. My son, Brad, who you know, was conceived in Japan. And when he was born, we had a special little T-shirt made for him that said, "Made in Japan."
That's cute. That's cute. Well, tell me about the gentleman who actually saw the blast take place at 5 years old. What saved him?
Well, he was living on one of the islands in what is known as the Inland Sea. Hiroshima actually is a mixture of peninsulas that jut out into the ocean, and within those peninsulas are some small islands. Most of them are inhabited, or at least some of them. And his family lived on one of those islands. They were far enough away from the blast to not be destroyed by it, but close enough that he could see the mushroom cloud. And, well, it was a major event in his life. But interestingly enough, he, as well as most other Japanese people that I knew at that time, were very impressed and very grateful for what Americans did for them after the war. I felt very little rancor regarding the outcome of the war. It was mostly a lot of gratitude, but it was an interesting experience, a very, very interesting experience, especially for someone who had really only been to Canada and Mexico in his entire life.
Well, I still do not understand an awful lot about the ramifications of World War II and the implications. I don't understand Japan's part. I don't understand why that had to be done. Were they after the United States? Was it
totally different environment, totally different time, totally different mindset on the part of the Japanese leaders. They were very expansionist at that time. They had designs on basically ruling all of Asia. The United States opposed that. And when Japan saw that, or when the leaders, mostly the military leaders of Japan, saw their opportunity, they expanded their empire. They, of course, we all know, they attacked Pearl Harbor. My uncle, by the way, was at Pearl Harbor when it was attacked. He was driving from Honolulu out to Pearl Harbor. His car was strafed. Every time Pearl Harbor Day came around, he was always invited to go on our local radio station and talk about his experiences. But I think the important thing to remember is that because of the goodwill on a part of Americans and America after World War II, the overall attitude of the Japanese people, at least such as I encountered it, was that they were very, very grateful for what we had done to help them rebuild after the war. They wanted to learn English. That's why I was there. I was there to teach them English.
English as a second language,
yeah,
right?
Conversational English.
I once taught English as a second language to Chinese, and I just never could figure out how I could ever do that. And my bosses said, yeah, you can do that. They gave me the tools, and there was no computers in those days, of course, but we had these little cards, and they had pictures on them. And there would be a card with a magnetic strip on the bottom, and there would be a picture of a house. And you run the card, the student had the card, it would run it through the magnetic strip, and it would say in Japanese house and then in English house. And that's how they got used to saying house. And then it would be a bigger house, it would say big house, and then a small house, and then a red house and blue house and green house. And that's how they started to learn the language. And I was shocked that it worked.
Yeah, well, it sounds like it did very well.
It did. It worked. I have something interesting from Dr. Whitaker's wonderful writings, and he says that drinking 2/3 cup of tomato juice per day protects against exercise-induced free radical damage. Well, I don't even know if we know what free radical damage is, but it's a cellular damage that exercise can produce. So I guess this is good news. Drink 2/3 of a cup of tomato juice per day because it'll protect your cells from free radical damage, and that's a good thing. I think that's a good thing. Do you have any wisdom to add to that?
I don't have any particular wisdom to add to that other than I know from personal experience that hard exercise, really pushing yourself, can lead to damage if you're not careful. So I'll try tomato juice.
Yeah, I would try tomato juice. I think that's a good thing. And then I wanted also to talk about another thing. A large waist is a significant risk factor for diabetes, heart disease, and premature death. A large waist is a significant risk factor for diabetes, heart disease, and premature death. That's very important to look at, to understand, and to work on the size of the waist. And I have no idea. It might be a matter of fat cells, an accumulation of sugar cells. If you are a bit overweight, I don't know. I have no idea. But Dr. Whitaker writes things that are factual, and I think it's a good idea to listen with wisdom and take it seriously. So now we're going to take a break. This is KCAA 1050 on your AM radio dial. And as we do, we take breaks.
$10,000 or more in credit card debt? Behind on your payments or barely making minimums? Do your massive interest payments have you running like mad in circles? How long can you keep it up? Stop running. Let the Thomas & Law Group carefully plan your escape. The Thomas & Law Group has proven itself for over 18 solid years, helping thousands of people like you and me reclaim our financial future. They have an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau and offices in all 50 states. And the best part? There are no upfront fees at all. You won't pay a dime until the job's done. No upfront costs, no monthly fees, no banking fees. No other law firm does that. I'm a paid spokesperson, not a lawyer, and every case is different. But really, if you owe $10,000 or more in credit card debt, call the Thomas & Law Group right away for a free, no-obligation consult with a trained legal analyst at 800-460-9790. Call now because you're tired of running in circles. 800-460-9790. 800-460-9790.
Hyperbaric oxygen therapy has only lately begun to gain recognition for treatment of chronic degenerative health problems, including stroke, diabetic ulcers, wound healing, brain injury, and many other disorders. Whenever blood flow and oxygen delivery to vital organs is reduced, healing can potentially be aided with hyperbaric oxygen therapy.
Are you a candidate for hyperbaric oxygen therapy?
Contact Dr. Donald Jolly Gabriel, PhD, for a free consultation and see if this groundbreaking therapy can help you. Mention KCAA and get a free gift. Call toll-free 1-877-423-7986. That's 1-877-423-7986.
Or go to hyperbaric-solutions.com. That's www.hyperbaric-solutions.com.
Call toll-free right now, 1-877-423-7986. Hyperbaric Oxygen Therapy.
Greetings and welcome back to What's It All About on 1050 on your AM dial and 106.5 on your FM dial. And soon to be another FM station, 3 simulcasts. Is that right, Miss Engineer?
Yep, and that will be 106.3.
106.3, 106.5, and 1050 AM, right? Wow, that's growth. That's wonderful. Will we be heard around the world?
Well, we're already heard around the world. All people have to do is go to kcaaradio.com.
kcaaradio.com, and we will be heard and seen around the world.
True story.
That's why we have to shave, right? We have to look good. Okay, well, amen for that one. I want to remind everybody that it is really important to take a break from all the electronic devices that surround us and affect our body and our brain. Our brain is very much affected. Taking a break, and at night it's important. Get all the stuff out of your house, out of your room. Turn off your Wi-Fi equipment. Put your cell phone far away in another room. You don't need to have those things bombarding your brain all the time. They have to affect on a cellular level. They have to. And I don't care what anybody says. They have to. And there's a lot of work done now that proves that that's the case. So if we could give ourselves a rest, 7 or 8 hours a day, that would help because there's a cumulative effect of all of this stuff. So that's just a little bit of advice that I wanted to give you. Also, I'm interested in reminding everyone that we're going to have our drawing for dinner for 2 at the Castaways Restaurant. The Castaways Restaurant is a beautiful restaurant. I think it's called Little Mountain. It's on a hill at the end of E Street. There's an incredible view of the entire valley, all the way to Riverside and Moreno Valley and all those areas. And I think that you need to remember we're having a drawing for dinner for 2 at the Castaways Restaurant, and the way that you enter it is you call the number 949-680-1915. Put your name in. Your name will be put in a drawing basket, and you have a good chance of winning. Be sure that you put your name in and your telephone number and your address, if you'd like. That gives us another way to get in touch with you. And Rodney, did you have something you wanted to add?
You know, I did. I just wanted to comment on the Castaways Restaurant. I will never forget, this is probably 2-3 years ago, one 4th of July, you and I had dinner up there, and we were able to watch firework displays from, I think it was 6 or 7 different locations at one time.
It was wild.
Oh, it was crazy.
And plus, we could see all the little ones in the house, in the yards of the houses.
Yes,
the bottom of the hill and through the most of the city. It was an orgasmic display of fireworks.
So I can absolutely assure you, 4th of July or not, If you are the winner of that contest, you will have a magnificent evening up at the Castaways restaurant.
Always. I was there opening night, and I can't remember what year it was. I think maybe it might have been 1958. I must have been 2 years old then, right?
Yes.
God, I wish I were. So I remember that night I did a very bad thing there. And what I did was they obviously have restrooms there. And the restrooms opened from the inside by pulling on a handle that was screwed to the door. So myself and some other school buddies, we wanted to create a little bit of havoc. So we brought a screwdriver with us one night, and we unscrewed the handle on the inside of the door. So if you were on the inside of the door at the Castaways restaurant in the men's room, you couldn't get out. You couldn't get out until somebody opened the door from the outside, pushed it open, and then you could get out. So for a couple hours, there was total chaos, absolute chaos. And I told my confessor in confession what I had done. And he gave me such a big penance, worse than some of the real sins that I committed. For I had to make up for doing that and causing havoc to those poor people. But anyway, that's my recollection of one of the first times I was ever at the Castaways restaurant. But it's an absolutely fantastic restaurant, and the food is absolutely wonderful. So please call in, enter. The number is area code 949-680-1915. And anybody who wants to call in, remember, you can talk about anything. We may not have the answers. If not, we'll create them. The number to call in is 1-888-909-1050. That's 1-888-909-1050. We're going to have a very interesting guest next week. Dr. Julian Whitaker will be our guest. Dr. Whitaker has some incredible things that he's done, and I worked with him for many, many years, over 12 years, and I am very, very impressed. I saw literally over that period of time thousands of people become much better from things like diabetes, things like heart disease, various kinds of heart disease. He's going next week to talk to us specifically about heart problems, and we'll get him to talk a little bit about diabetes as well. And we do have a caller on the line, so let's welcome that caller. Welcome to What's It All About? May we have your first name, please?
I don't know. You may, but there's a fee for that.
Oh, is there a price? Do you want to exact compensation from us?
I think I might actually. You see, I've been listening to your radio show more and more, and it's got its interesting points, and I'm getting to learn to appreciate the wisdom that's really behind it. But I hear that there's this dinner for two going on, and I would like that to be my prize. I will go ahead and call your number as you desire, but I will demand it if you wish.
Amen. Amen. Go for it. Call that number and say you want to be entered. And encourage people to call that number, because we're going to have a good night. It's going to be a great dinner, and we'll have a little wine or a martini or some holy water.
Or a lot of wine and a lot of martinis.
A lot of martinis. Well, it's on a hill. Have you ever tried driving down and up that hill? Might not be good, but we better take a designated driver.
Unfortunately, I'm a little bit new to the area, so I'm not too familiar yet with all of San Bernardino. Just came out of Orange County. Have always wanted to get away from Orange County. I'm not too comfortable with that whole bubble thing and corporate area, but I love these mountains here, and there's so many cool roads to explore and all sorts of hills. Anyway, I don't want to take up too much of your time. Again, I heard you mention something about Pearl Harbor, so I always like to recognize the men and women who serve our country. And really, the reason I'm calling is because you mentioned this thing earlier in the show about some tomato juice to combat free radical damage from exercise.
Yes.
I became somewhat of an elite athlete today. I'm 30 years old, but a while back, when I was in my younger 20s, I was pretty aggressive, and I was a very competitive runner and trainer at the same time, doing extensive exercises and that in combination with my line of work, I think, has sort of gotten to my back, and I'm not sure if it's due to the exercise or not, or this free radical damage. But I was very curious to learn if HBOT might be able to assist me with my back discomfort.
HBOT, that sounds like HBOT. What is
Yes.
HBOT? Should I know what HBOT is? I should. HBOT stands for hyperbaric.
Well, I heard the commercial.
Yes, hyperbaric oxygen therapy, right?
I certainly hope so.
Yes.
I don't know. I know enough about it, but not, I'm sure, as much as you do. But again, I'm really curious to find out, is it something that might be able to help out? I know you guys are kind of far, but I did some of my research, and it sounds like you guys probably have some of the most competitive pricing that I've ever seen. That might be the national best. Anyhow, again, can it help me?
Yeah, I would like to address that issue. Hyperbaric oxygen therapy is a methodology that allows massive amounts of 100% oxygen to be dissolved in your blood. And this is very difficult to achieve without equipment that will actually pressurize your body and force a gas to dissolve into the liquid components of your body, including your blood. And when that happens, high levels of oxygen can provoke healing factors that are phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. And one of the first...
Well, what can it do for the back? For example, my right upper, it's starting to... It seems like it's growing over time. It's a very gradual growth, but it's getting more and more discomfortable. And I don't really want to get involved with too much Western medicine approaches. But I know that hyperbaric oxygen therapy is pretty well accepted over here. And I don't know if it's used for this or not.
Well,
but it sounds like it might help. I just want to know if it can or can't. Is it going to be worth my time?
Well, to answer your question, yes, it can be very helpful under certain circumstances. It depends on the nature of an injury, the nature of an ongoing act of irritation. That's very, very important. Sometimes we have to determine what the cause is and then either eliminate or lower the cause to help lower the continuum of the irritation, because healing can take place, but if you're healing and allowing the continuum to get worse, then you're going to stay where you are instead of getting any better. So for the most part, it can be very helpful, number one, at alleviating inflammation. Very helpful. Number two, in provoking healing factors.
I was going to ask that about inflammation.
Yeah, inflammation. And there are some supplements that can be extremely helpful. I know that at our medical center, the doctors often will prescribe some pretty powerful curcumin mixtures. Curcumin is very powerful, and there's one particular mixture, I think it's called Cure Pro, that is about 8 to 10 times as strong as a normal capsule of curcumin or encapsulated curcumin spice. It's actually a spice because it is a very powerful immune stimulant as well as something that alleviates inflammation. So that in consortium with hyperbaric can be extremely helpful. But my point is always, if you're doing something that's exacerbating the problem, you need to slow down or stop it for a while for the healing to take place. Otherwise...
Well, you know what? I go to Orange County about maybe once a week. Like I said, I just got out of there. Can I drop in? I'd like to see your clinic.
Well, of course. We have a beautiful hyperbaric center at the South Coast Medical Center in Irvine, and we would be delighted for you to come. And we'll show you the place, put you in a chamber for a few minutes so that you can determine how it feels and if you'd be comfortable in there. Expose you to some information and educate you a little bit too, because it's kind of strange. You walk into these places and you see all of these chambers that resemble somewhat glass coffins, And some people get scared and saying, "What are you trying to do to me?" Well, we're trying to create an environment.
Like a miniature submarine.
Amen. We're creating a pressurized environment for you, because there's a natural law that whenever a gas is under pressure, the pressure will cause the gas to dissolve in whatever liquid is there. And when you're in the chamber, the liquid is your blood and your body fluids, so we can impress gas, whatever it is, oxygen, it will be 100% oxygen in this case, into your body fluids, and that increases your healing factors dramatically, absolutely dramatically.
All right. Well, that answers my question. You'll remember me, I'm sure, because I'll drop in and remind you. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Well, it's nice talking to you. What is your first name?
Michael.
Hi, Michael. I'm Donald, and Rodney is my co-host for the day, and we appreciate your call. And I would love it for you to call me. I can give you the number of the clinic if you want it, or you can look it up.
You give it to me real quick. I'm sure I have it somewhere, though.
Area code 949-680-19.
949.
Yeah, 680-1904.
1904.
Yeah.
949-680-1904.
Correct.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
I appreciate it. I wish you a wonderful afternoon.
Amen. God bless. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay, so now everybody knows a little bit about what HBOT is, right? I hope so. Okay, I want to be able to say something to you, too. We're coming up to holidays. We're coming up to Christmas. We're coming up to Thanksgiving. Gratitude is an extremely important part of our lives, and most of us don't realize it. Gratitude is magic. Number one, it's a magic connector for you to give gratitude to people. It causes them to feel incredibly good and to be grateful to you for giving gratitude to them. Gratitude is important. Do not forget that. Now, especially we're entering the time of Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving is a time of year to remember, number one, to give gratitude to God for the great chance of living on this earth and learning and growing and gaining the experiences we gain and developing faith factors and trying to wander through life without a whole lot of confusion. That's a very important thing. But it is scientifically proven that gratitude can reap physiological rewards that are astounding. Now, many years ago, I did some research with Dr. Thelma Moss at UCLA. And one of the things we did was we hooked people up to various electronic devices that measured all kinds of responses. And then we had those people give gratitude to other people, sincere gratitude to other people. And we used the electronic measurement systems to determine the physiological reactions of the people who were giving the gratitude. And they showed to be very, very positive. There were positive neurological aspects of the reaction that let us know that the person was really very happy and really experienced joy in the ability to give gratitude. And then we also hooked up the recipients of the gratitude. And the test showed that they had a very positive physiological reaction. And then we hooked up observers of gratitude being given. And they had a very positive physiological reaction. Very positive. So we know now that there's power in gratitude. We need to give gratitude. We need to accept gratitude graciously. And if you believe in a creator, in God, we need to give gratitude to God. Thank God, thank our creator for our life, for the opportunities we have. Seek a little bit of guidance and help and strength and faith so that we can determine how best to live our life in gratitude. Gratitude is very important. So at Thanksgiving Day, give gratitude. Gratitude to God for everything, but give gratitude to each other. A little note can be magic. Don't forget that. And then we're building up to Christmas. And I don't know what Christmas means anymore. I see very, very little reference to God or Jesus. And I thought always that Christmas was a celebration of Jesus Christ's birthday, just like Washington's Day is a celebration of George Washington's birthday, and Lincoln's birthday is a celebration of Abraham Lincoln's birthday, and so on and so forth. It's like we just we want to disregard anyone who believes in God and forget them, and make Christmas tinsels and bells and whistles and Santa Claus and elves and flying sleighs and whatever. So anyway, whatever it is to you, live it. Make it work in your life. That's very important for your psychological well-being, your emotional well-being. And let's face it, we live in a world where faith and hope are very, very important. And I believe very strongly that they are tools that will enhance our life. They will enhance our life. I gave a great lecture at UCLA years ago about the importance of faith and hope, and there were a bunch of atheists there, and one atheist woman got up and she said, I've been here all day. I've heard you. I gave a seminar. It was a very long seminar from morning till about 5 o'clock in the afternoon. She said, I've heard everything you've said, and I've enjoyed it. You've educated me. You've helped me. But I have to tell you that your faith is a crutch. It's just a crutch. You need to put more time and energy in building your material world and making more money and achieving more influence, because that's what really matters. And I didn't know how to answer her. There's a lot of people there, hundreds and hundreds of people in that theater. And I thought, I need to say something that makes sense. So I uttered a quick prayer. I said, Lord, let me say something that makes sense. And this came out of my mouth. And I really didn't get it until I heard the recording afterwards. I got it then. But here's what I said. I said, you're right. Thank you very much for being profoundly intelligent and understanding that I have a crutch. And I love my crutch. I use my crutch every single day. My crutch helps me not slip on the wet pavement. It helps me go over precipices and curbs. It helps me do things I couldn't do without it. I love my crutch. And I even thought that I could take my crutch and help beat somebody away who came to attack me and steal my wallet or whatever. So I want you to know that I appreciate your comments to me. I told her that. I want you to know that I appreciate your comments to me. But I also want you to know that my crutch is very, very important to me. And if I were to die this instant, and there is nothing to what I believe, I wouldn't know it anyway. But I would have had my crutch to give me hope and faith my entire life. And for that, I am very grateful. And at that point, the entire room started to clap and scream and yell. It meant something to them. They got it. And I got it. I said it. I don't know where it came from, but I said it. And the woman just looked at me and sat down, never said a word. And at the end of my program, I was walking down the center steps from the stage, and the woman who had put the program together walked up to me, and as I was descending, she looked up directly into my eyes, and she said, "You're the only one that's ever shut her up." And I didn't exactly know what she was saying or why she was saying that, but I found out later that, she's a pretty cynical lady and always has something to say. And in all the years that she's been coming to these particular programs, these programs on spirituality or having to do with spirituality, she's always been very critical and made sense to everybody. So I think as a very practical thing, we should look at faith and hope as being very important aspects of our life. And having that crutch can be helpful. What do you think about that, Mr. Rodney?
I certainly wouldn't disagree with that. In fact, I would agree wholeheartedly. You know, you were mentioning gratitude as something which is very important. And I would say that gratitude and affirmation go hand in hand. In fact, they're almost interchangeable, I think. When we give gratitude to someone for what they've done, we are affirming them, and affirmation always makes a big difference. You know both of my children, and I'm very pleased with how they've turned out. When they were small, I made a commitment to them that I would do two things. Number one, I would listen without judgment, and I would affirm them at every opportunity that I could. And I think it's paid off.
Well, my observation is it's paid off magnificently. I took a group of people to Rome with me one time, and among them was your son, and he was far more mature than his age, and looked after people and was profoundly bright and intelligent. I thought very centered and very appreciative of everything that we did while we were in Rome. And we did many religious type things and many non-religious type things, many fun things. I was very impressed by him. Very, very impressed.
He still thinks that was one of the high points of his life, by the way.
Well, I'm glad of that.
Yeah.
I always love going to Rome and taking people to Rome. And we took one particular lady, God rest her soul, to Rome, who was kind of a wild lady, and she needed somebody to look after her. She was a little bit elderly and very open-minded, maybe too open-minded. And Brad was very good to her and helped her and took her around and showed her many things that she wanted to see that we weren't interested in.
I think that Lorraine was probably as much a point of attraction and an eye-opener for him as seeing Rome itself.
Well, you know, it's funny because we had a nun with us who was a very brilliant lady, and she was an executive. She ran one of the largest hospitals in the United States, and she was roommates with Lorraine. And Lorraine used to, I asked her, I said, "Sister, are you okay being roommates with Lorraine?" Because, you know, she was very different than a nun who prayed half her life.
Well, a free spirit, yes.
Yeah, she was a very free spirit. And Sister said to me, she says, "Well, you know, it's a very unique experience." And I said, "But is it okay?" And she says, "Oh, yes." She says, "You know, I am used to anything and everything." She said, I run one of the biggest hospitals in the United States. You have to be open-minded to do that." And I said, "Well, tell me about it." She said, "Well, she gets up every morning and she walks to the window, totally naked. And she opens the window wide and stands there and breathes 100 breaths. And the people from down are looking up at her." And I said, "Well, does that bother you?" And she said, "No, it doesn't bother me at all." She said, "I take a walk and go down the halls and wait for her to finish." And she does push-ups every morning. And then she wants to go and have breakfast with all the men down on the sidewalk cafe. And I said, "Well, are you okay with that?" And she says, "Oh, yes, I don't go with her, but I watch her through the window." And I said, "Okay, that's cool." So Sister got a good glimpse of the other side of life, I guess, huh? Anyway, we are nearing the end. We have about 4.5 minutes left. Is that about right? About 4.5 minutes left. So
6.5.
6.5. We have 2 extra minutes. That's wonderful. Rodney, say something to help us impart wisdom.
Well, that's a pretty broad. It's a pretty broad invitation there. I suppose maybe I would just say this. I am now a grandfather. I never thought I would become a grandfather. Well, actually, I did, but I always thought it was going to be somewhere off in the future. And when my daughter announced almost 4 years ago, that she was pregnant, she and her husband were expecting, I had this strange mix of emotions. On one hand, it was very exciting. On the other hand, I thought, I'm just not ready to be called grandpa. And so I was trying to figure out, well, what can I be called other than grandpa? And I was coming up with all kinds of strange and bizarre ideas. But I got to tell you, when my granddaughter was born, all of my hesitancy, all of my reluctance disappeared in a flash. I just got back from spending 8 months in North Carolina with my now 3-year-old granddaughter. It has been one of the high point experiences of my life. I've been with her. She's changed so much. She gets up in the morning, she comes to me, and she says one of two things. She says, Grandpa, I so hungry, or Grandpa, I pooped. And so that's how my day over there started. But I started keeping a journal, a Facebook journal, actually. And, 2-3 times a week, I would write a little post, maybe 3 paragraphs, 5 paragraphs, about some kind of ordinary, everyday experience that happened between the two of us. And people would come and they would tell me, I really like that. It's really fun to follow, etc. And what I realized was that I'm simply writing about the everyday stuff that each and every one of us is encountered with. The difference is, as a grandfather, I started to be aware of how important the everyday little incidents of life are. And as I became aware of that, I became determined to be even more aware. And so I have developed a habit of appreciating the small details of life, the small experiences of life. I've stopped waiting for something really big and noteworthy to happen before I take the time to really appreciate it. Speaking of Thanksgiving, I'm grateful for the everyday little beauty, the beauteous details, the everyday little joys that come my way. And that's how I deal with stress. That's how life becomes valuable to me. That's what I do every time I think of the horrible things like this terrorist attack in Paris. I think of the compensating small joys of life, and in particular of my 3-year-old granddaughter, whose name is Edith. My daughter named her after Edith Piaf, the French singer. And so, here's to Edith, here's to all the little joys of life.
Well, amen. Well, thank you for that. And you know what? We really need to buy into what you just said. We really need to buy into it. I became a grandfather and never even had any children and never had a wife to have children. So I'm a grandfather now, and I have 8 grandchildren. 8 grandchildren. I adopted a young man at 13, and he's a fine young man. His mother died very young, and it turned out that now I'm a grandfather. And all of them are calling me Grandpa, and it makes me feel older. So now we're ready to go. I want everybody to remember how wonderful and beautiful you are. I want you to remember to seek out God in your life. And if you don't believe in God and you don't want to believe in God, that's your choice. But I still advise you to seek God. Just say, hey, look, if you're there, open yourself to me. Push me toward you. Help me connect with you if you're there. That can be a conditional prayer for you. Look at your body and your mind and love yourself and honor yourself enough to give yourself the best. Take care. Love each other. Have a wonderful week. This is Dr. Donald Jolly Gabriel on Kcaa 1050 on your AM radio dial, 106.5 on your FM dial. We'll see you next week at 3 o'clock on Wednesday.
Give yourself the investment of a lifetime. Enjoy this holiday season in a luxury estate home at Charleston Estates, the only new home neighborhood in prestigious South Redlands and smartly priced from the mid-800,000s. Charleston Estates features gourmet kitchens and California rooms that make holiday entertaining even more memorable. Homes reach 4,463 square feet with up to 5 bedrooms. Ask about